Welcome to this edition of the Church Answers podcast. If you were back listening at the previous episode, we were talking about artificial intelligence in the church. We kind of gave an introduction to it, and goodness gracious, how this thing has just come onto the scene so incredibly rapidly, and it's going to continue to really just befuddle the mind as we begin to see all the ways that AI can be used for good and then can be used for evil as well. Today, we're going to acknowledge that there's the possibility, maybe even the probability. I tend to be a skeptic with this technology, but at the same time, I like to embrace new technology. So I feel like I'm kind of like a speaking contradiction on this, and maybe that's just the nature of artificial intelligence. We just haven't got it all figured out. But in this particular episode, we'll be talking about the positives for the church. And I do think there are at least a couple. Maybe you can give us in the comments, and wherever you're listening or watching on YouTube, you can give us some comments about the positives for you. Hey, always thank you, Belay Solutions. I got tongue tied in my previous podcast. I was talking about Belay and AI, and I started calling EA, and I just can get all over the place. Well, Belay Solutions, Belay is an organization that can really come alongside you and help you by providing you virtual assistants. They can provide you bookkeepers. They can provide people that can take a lot of the work that you don't need to be doing so you can focus on the work of ministry. I have been doing ministry alongside Belay for so long that I even brought someone from Belay to my organization before it was named Belay. It was another name back in those days. Check them out. They're great help for organizations, specifically for the church. They have a great resource, and it's called 25 Tasks a Pastor Can Delegate to an Assistant. Now, I'm going to challenge you, pastors. Download this, or if you're on a leadership team, download it for your pastor and go through those and say, if we just made a little investment in an executive assistant or a virtual assistant, then our pastor would have more time to do ministry. Check it out. 25 Tasks a Pastor Can Delegate to an Assistant. Visit belaysolutions.com/Thom Rainer, or look at it in the show notes and download that free resource. Question: are there positives to artificial intelligence for the church today? It's early. We're in the incipient stages of artificial intelligence on a broad scale. I get emails every single day from organizations about about AI, about artificial intelligence. I am besieged with opportunities to participate in new resources for artificial intelligence, and it's big. It is really big. In the previous podcast, I said it's the most disruptive thing that I think I have seen in my life, which is a long life, and so that's a pretty bodacious statement. So, what is there about artificial intelligence that can be helpful to the church? In the last episode, I talked about being extremely cautious about letting it do your sermons for you, because quite frankly, there's already software out there can scrape the internet and can detect whether you have done AI-assisted plagiarism. Be careful there. Be careful out there, because at some point, somebody will know it. Once you've put it out there, a streaming sermon, audio, video, both, once you put it out there, it's there for good, even if you delete it. So be very, very careful on the sermonic side. I gave some cautions about using it for Bible study, particularly if you have a sermon and your sermon text and a title and a general gist of that text where the pastor is preaching. Can you use that for maybe customized Bible study, sermon-based Bible study? Maybe so. That was discussed in a group I was with recently, and some of them liked the idea, and we finally came to the conclusion, well, if you decide to do that, then please make certain you give attribution that this study was AI produced, just something to that nature. Don't act like someone else has produced it, because when you're doing a Bible study based upon a sermon, you are using the sermon as the primary source. So, but I still would give credit. Where do I see AI as perhaps one of the better uses? I kind of discovered this as I was preparing an article on micro stresses of pastors that was published not too long ago. And I came up with some of the most significant micro stresses, those little things by themselves that would not cause a breakdown or depression or something like that, but the cumulative effect of them would do so. And I wanted to get a good illustration about a micro stress factor in culture. And I used AI. I don't remember the exact nature of my question, but the answer that AI gave was a very specific answer of a bridge that had micro stresses that finally collapsed, that led to a lot of laws and all kinds of oversight of bridges and roads that have saved lives since then. And the collapse of that particular bridge was something that I had not heard of. Well, how did I get that? I went to AI. And I think that that is one of the possible ways that we can use AI. We can use AI for research. Now, check the research. It's just like someone saying, well, Google says, well, Google doesn't know anything. Google, all it's doing is scraping the internet and coming back with some of the searches it finds, and it's ranking them first by paid ads, and then secondly, by frequency of people asking for that information. So the first thing we've got to say is AI is not infallible. It is, even though some conspiracy theorists are already calling it the Antichrist, I'm not there yet, but I just simply want you to say AI is still making mistakes. It will make fewer, but use it for research. I used it for research about that bridge that collapsed in writing my article. I did not copy and paste anything, but I said, this is a fascinating way to look at it. And I rewrote it in my own words, and I used about a paragraph in my blog article of my total blog. So it probably accounted for maybe 10 or 15% of my total blog, but it was not anything that I plagiarized or copied. I can see this being artificial intelligence, being a very good place to do research and maybe to save you time. We know that we have all kind of time-saving tools out there as well. Back in the days when I was a pastor, which would have been probably in the 1800s, when I was a pastor, there was no internet. I had books strewn across my desk. I had commentaries. I had word studies, and it would take forever. And then technology comes along and all kinds of technology tools to help me and help you to do research. And that's where I see AI will be most helpful in the future. It can help you do the research for your sermons and for other things. We'll continue to watch artificial intelligence. We'll continue to look at it, especially from the perspective of the church. But hey, wherever you are, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a good rating, give us a like, subscribe to us so we can get the word out. And if you're listening to this on audio podcast, give us a good rating and review. But you can also comment. You can say, let me tell you some of the good ways I'm using AI already. I would love to hear it, because we're going to keep reporting to folks. We have a thread in Church Answer Central right now, that incredible place where you can ask any question and get an answer from a subject matter expert or from the community within a very short while. We have an amazing thread going on right there about AI as well. But I'd love to hear from you. Let me hear from you specifically on this topic. How can AI, artificial intelligence, be a positive for the church? Once again, thanks to Belay. Love those folks, have been using those folks, continue to use those folks to this day. I quite frankly have had hardly any time in the last 10 plus years where I have not had some connection with Belay, using them for my organization, and still do to this day. They have a great download for you, and I'm going to encourage you to just download it. It's free, and you can get it in the show notes, or you can go to belaysolutions.com/Thom Rainer to get 25 tasks a pastor can delegate to an assistant. It's really good. It's really quick, and it'll be very helpful for you as well. Okay. We're releasing 3 podcasts at once. The previous podcast I just did was just on AI in the church. This one was on the positives of AI for the church. Now we're going to do one more. And if you choose to listen to it, it will be the next one, podcast number 21, Artificial Intelligence or AI the negatives for the church. I hope you'll return to that third podcast. We'll see you then. Hey, folks, this is a PS to our podcast. We got some exciting stuff that we want to offer you absolutely for free. Sam, when you think about predictive factors in a church's growth, if you take out demographics, what are some things that come to mind? Just two. I mean, don't give me a list of 10. Just two or three things that come to mind on predictive growth of a church.
Well, evangelism and whether the church is doing it or not.
Bingo.
And then I will add, is it an ongoing evangelism emphasis?
Double bingo. Well? And maybe something about leadership and their commitment to that. So all of the above.
Evangelistic churches have evangelistic pastors. Is the staff, is the lead pastor doing the work themselves?
We have a free download for you, and it's actually a sheet that you can self-score. You answer 20 questions, anywhere from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And we come back and we predict what your growth rate is going to be for the next year in worship attendance. It's not a perfect tool, but it's a good tool. There's a link to that for the attendance predictor. Look in the show notes. You'll absolutely love it. That's cool. We'll see you soon.